First, we're going to talk about why do we meet with our elected officials. Second, we're going to talk about the procedures involved in meeting with the legislators. And then on the third one, we're going to go over what happens in the actual meeting. The fourth one will be kind of some ideas to help you form your story. The fifth one will be our esteemed speaker, Scheleen Walker. And at the end, we're going to have a question and answer time, so please take notes during the webinar and save all your questions until the end of the presentation. Chat box. Oh, and also you can put some questions into the chat box if you feel so.
Right on. All right. So you're probably wondering right now, why do we even meet with elected officials? So it's simple. It really is simple because it works. It's that simple. And so what we have here is a guy by the name of Kevin Cate, who's involved in public relations, and he's a campaign advisor over in Florida. Did a survey where he asked 52 House and Senate assistants what influences their bosses the most. And basically he came up with this information. So as you can see here, I have some nifty tricks here. Basically, the white represents very effective. Basically, the white and the light blue represents the effectiveness. And so the white is very effective and the blue is effective. And so as you can see here, primarily if you look at these three right here, it's as straight as I can get it, you have in-person visits and individualized letters, which are definitely the most effective in reaching out for these representatives and the most influential when it comes to that. And on the flip side, you can see here that the letters and faxes and these generic postcards are the least effective when it comes to convincing these representatives to work for us. And so as you can see, 99% of these 52 House and Senate representatives agreed that in-person visits are definitely the most ideal way to influence these decision makers. If you're interested in checking out this survey, the link is right here. As you can see, there's a source. It's pretty difficult with this mouse. All right.
So on to why do we meet with our elected officials? Well, these are our elected officials. We elected them. They are representing their constituents, us. So it is the right of every constituent to meet with the decision maker. We are not inconveniencing them. This is our right. No special credentials are required, just a commitment for a better life. So anyone can do it. Anyone is qualified. Officials regularly meet with credentialed experts, and it's our job, however, to give them real stories of real people affected by the issues. Paid lobbyists are armed with money and tailored suits. We are armed with voices and votes.
All right. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry. So I'm going to go over the scorecard. Basically, the scorecard is similar to that of a report card, just to let them know that we're watching them. They need to be aware of their voting implications. We need to inform them of negative personal effects and effects on those around us, say our children's health. For those representatives who are parents, we need to let them know about economic losses for those interested in the economy, saving the environment for future generations. For those who are family-oriented, about dwindling resources, and for those who are interested in business and investments, show them that we can make and preserve resources for the benefits as well. There is a change to the focus and the harness to new resources and make money off that they need to think outside the barrel.
All right, so how do we start? Where do we start? How do we prepare for it? So basically there's a website that we're going to get into in the next slide called the Texas Tribune, where you simply write down your zip code and it gives you information about your representatives, both in the federal level and the state level. Now, the way to get involved basically and come prepared is that you have to set roles for the people that are attending the meeting. And so you have the facilitator, who's also the leader. He helps ensure that the meeting is on task and that everyone has an opportunity to speak during the visit. You have the organizer, who's responsible for confirming the meeting time and location, simply by contacting the representative's office and setting up the meeting in advance. And he's also responsible in following up on that. You also have the note taker, who's responsible to record all the questions that were asked during the meeting. And he or she is also responsible for recording any commitments, like I said earlier with the organizer, any commitments or follow-up requests that were made during the meeting. So it's really crucial to note that if no notes were taken, there was no meeting. The meeting basically didn't happen. Testimonials are the people that share the personal stories and how they were affected by the issue. So it can be ideally 2 to 3, maybe even 4, usually not 4, 2 to 3 people, depending on the length of the meeting that you set up in advance. So basically you would probably get around 15 to 20 minutes with these representatives, so it's important to not veer off topic and not let them make the conversation irrelevant. And so if, for example, there's one of the attendees went to UT and the representative went to UT as well, you can start talking about UT football, for example, and then it can just totally veer off topic and get unrelated to the issue, the reason that you're there in the first place. Now, besides that, this is optional, but it's highly recommended. There's also the chance to basically bring in a short printed related material. So it can be a short article from a local newspaper that's somehow related to the subject that you came in for, or a letter to the editor for the local newspaper, and it can also be just a one-page fact sheet that has related data that you can bring to the meeting. So what I did actually, we have a meeting planned out soon for Mark Vesey, who's actually a representative for the House of Representatives for Texas, the new District 33. And so this is also optional, but it's highly recommended when we're talking about just coming prepared to these meetings. And so what I did here was set up a little Word document with his photo. You have details about his office, phone number for the office over in DC. You have some basic information about when was he born, his bio, basically. He has a wife, he has a kid. And then one important thing that we're going to see in a second is that he's very, he has a lot of things in regards to environment, so he's very much, we know that when we're coming into this meeting, we're going to be really optimistic about it. And so these are the neighborhoods he's in charge of, the District 33. You have his professional experience, which again, when we talk about coming prepared, as you can see, he used to be a sports writer, for example, so you can come in, if you're talking about the environment, saying something about it's important if you want to have a future of sport and future of outdoors in Texas, that the particle, the bad pollutants in the air won't be spread out across the state. And endorsements, which Mike was talking about, the scorecards. And so you have Environmental Texas and Sierra Club Lone Star Chapter, both 100% rating. And so again, like I said earlier, we're going to be really optimistic about this. Now, we also have the campaign finance. And so the biggest contributor is labor, for example. And so it's important because if we're talking about setting up future renewable energy, for example, jobs in Texas, this is good because that can give more benefits to more jobs, create more U.S. jobs, basically. And so here, as I was saying earlier, you have the committees he's on. And so you got different committees regarding the environment. And so that's subcommittee on energy, for example. So that's something that should be important when you come in prepared. And we also have the census. And so you have the map of his jurisdiction right here, and you have the census data, just so you have some basics about the amount of the population that is in this territory, and that sort of information. Oh, also, before I forgot to mention this obviously, like I said, is optional, and the Sierra Club can help you do this if you're having difficulties. And now with the next slide, I'm going to show you some websites where you can get all this information. So we are actually going to send this presentation out, so don't worry about taking notes of these websites or anything like that. And as I was saying earlier, the Texas Tribune directory, I'm going to visited just to show you what we're talking about. And so I'll enter my zip code, for example. And so it's going to take a second. There you go. So I can see that the U.S. Senator, the Texas representatives in the Senate and the House of Representatives here, and the state level representatives both in the Senate, and the House of Representatives. And so that's something that you can come in, and that's how you can start the process of meeting with these representatives. And also, they all have a website. They all have an official website where you can get more information about, and just seeing them in the media and that sort of information like that.
Okay, now what happens in the meeting? Well, start off. You're going to introduce yourself, and as you do this, you can also reference some previous outreach. Hello, sir. Did you receive my email? Did you receive my phone call or my actual letter? And then, as you introduce yourself, you also want to try to break the ice. Hi, I went to UNT, class of 2012. I'm a teacher. Maybe this person went to UNT. Maybe this person was a teacher or a police officer. Your uncle was a police officer. Blah blah blah. Try to create something. Try to create something to break the ice. And now you want to present your issue or your concern. There's cancer in my town. I'm worried. I love going to the state parks, and I'm worried about the funding. My parks is on the chopping block. And then you're going to kind of ask for their support. Would you please support funding for state parks? Let's not worry about the subsidies to oil. Let's worry about the funding to state parks. If they reject, try to reword it and question later on in a meeting. And also ask why they can't support your view. Okay, and make sure that you're doing 50-50 talk and listen. You may be passionate or you may be nervous, but try to keep it short and sweet, and make sure you listen as much as you talk, so that you're not missing any valuable information. They may give you some. They may give you some info. Say with if you ask pointed questions, like what would make you support this issue? What would make you change your mind? That's really cool. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Is there any research or information out there that you would need that would help you make your decision? These are kind of questions. So if they try to, say weasel around and try to avoid the topic, say if they're anti-environmentalists, they might not be in the best mood to speak with you. And then, time is money, so be sure to thank them for their time. And then make sure that you follow up, and this is the emphasis of the note taker. This is why the note taker is very important. If there are no notes, the meeting never happened. And then make sure that if they want pamphlets, if they want questions answered, that you get that information back to them. And in following up, ask them for their information and their contacts.
All right, so we set up a template here. Basically, this is a template meeting of just an example of the procedure involved, basically. And so we have the introduction, which is done usually by the facilitator. It'll go something like, "Good afternoon, sir. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to meet with us. We are here as residents of Austin who care about," I'll just give an example out here, water conservation in Austin, for example, a bill that is about to be passed about water conservation. And so my name is Yuval, Edrey, and I'm a concerned citizen, or in this case, going to be a member of the Sierra Club. And we'd like to talk to you about water conservation in Austin, ways to conserve water in Austin. And so then you would have the testimonials, which again would be the people that focus on telling their story of personal concerns as it pertains, as is relevant to the issue basically that we're talking about. So in this case, it's going to be water conservation, talking about the fact that in San Antonio, for example, around 15 to 20 years, the aquifer will be gone, that sort of information, somehow relate that to Austin. And I'm sure there's something similar in Austin. I'm just throwing this out there. And then you have the ask, which is done also by the facilitator. will representative, whoever you're meeting with, support, enter recommendations. So in this case, it will be changing the taps in Austin to be more efficient, more conserving water, something like that. You'd get comments, which, as Mike was talking about, basically the listening part. So you would hear what the staff has to say, and a lot of times it'll be something that they would say, for example, that they can't do it, either if it's financial reasons or just hear them out, take those notes. The note taker is invaluable in this case, just to make sure that he takes everything down, from both sides, both the attendees and the representative staff. And then you have the wrap up, which is done by the organizer, when you thank the representative for the time. Goes something like, "We appreciate the chance to discuss this important issue with you and look forward to working with you in the future." And so that's also when you tie up any loose ends and make sure you follow up soon enough.
All right, now in forming your story, you kind of want to go over your background. Each of us has a compelling story to tell, and so you kind of want to say, who you are and how blah 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 issue affects you. It may not affect you personally. It may be best friends, nieces, uncles, cousins, twice removed, whatever. If it's going on in your community, it's going on in their community. And then you also might want to give an idea of, like you said, your education or your profession. Somehow that may tie into, you're a teacher, they're a teacher, you went to so-and-so school, they went to so-and-so school. And then also giving up your interests and your concerns. Saying that you're a baseball coach for Little League, for T-ball, for softball coach for blah 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 church. They may know what church that is, and so you've seen more and more kids coming forward with asthma. I have asthma myself. I didn't realize until I started playing football. And some of your concerns, just bring these forward. The town where I come from, there's a lot of cancers going on. A lot of people wonder if there's something in the water. It is kind of an industrial town. Maybe you've noticed environmental degradation. Say, the acres downwind from the Fayetteville power plant. They've lost several acres of peach farms. Something like that. And then, just as you're giving these personal stories, you want to say something. Sorry about that. Oh, sorry. You want to say something memorable, say something impacting. So as they're going in to to go vote on the issues, maybe that thing that you say is stuck in their head, and so your last words impacts. Okay, your last words impacts their vote. So the story doesn't necessarily have to be about yourself. It can involve someone in your community. Okay, well, the bottom line is just stay to memorable and stay to impacting. And now I bet you've had enough of listening to us boys chit-chat, and it's time for the moment you've all been waiting for. The Lone Star Chapter Director of the Sierra Club, Miss Scheleen Walker. As I just said, she's the Chapter Director. She has a Master in Science and Environmental Planning from UT Austin. Lovely, hook 'em horns. She also has a Bachelor's of Arts in English and Policy Studies from Rice, which isn't too bad. They're a nice little college. She previously was the project manager on the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, and she was a legislative aide to John Bryant, and most recently she was a legislative director to Representative Donna Howard from 2006 to 2012. Ladies and gentlemen, Scheleen Walker.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mike and Yuval. I really appreciate y'all putting this all together. I just want to do a shout out to our fabulous intern program here at the Sierra Club. They've totally put this project together, and I really appreciate all the work they've done on it. I am here, I guess, to lend my experience as a legislative staffer for the past 7 years. I have worked at the House of Representatives for a representative from Austin, Texas, and I guess my major point to folks who are coming into the Capitol is just to remember that we're all human. Whenever you walk into an office, you are talking to human beings, And they are genuinely glad to have their constituents come and visit them. They are genuinely glad to know what their constituents are interested in. They may not always make that very apparent. They could be having a bad day with another bill. They could be hungry. They could be in a hurry. So it's not always going to be necessarily clear that they're happy to see you, but genuinely they are, and they want to know what their voters are asking for and what they need. We have a lot of folks who come to the Capitol to visit us. That said, we don't ever have enough people come to visit us. It's a real give and take. And genuinely, most staff people and most elected officials want to hear not from the lobbyists who are paid to come there and represent certain special interests, but from their constituents. So you already have a leg up on the hired guns when you walk in the office and you're able to say, I'm from your district and I'm here to talk to you about whatever you're there to talk to them about. A couple of things. I wholeheartedly, number one, wish I had had this training before I was a staff person. They've put together a really good nuts and bolts program for you about walking into office with the organizer and the director of the meeting, and the note taking, which is supremely key. If you're not taking notes and you're not able to report back to other people who are interested in your issue, you've almost done yourself a disservice by taking the time to do it. The whole point of you visiting face-to-face or phone call to phone call with a member of the legislature is to be able to spread that information as far and wide as possible that you can. So please take notes. And mostly, please take notes in order to follow up on any questions that offices have. And they generally have a lot of questions. There are 5,000 bills that are filed every session approximately. No staff member, no legislature knows about every single issue that they're being asked to vote on. And they really do rely on people to get information to them as quickly as possible. And I can't express the word quickly enough. They need information immediately. By the time the session has started, if you don't have your ducks in a row with information about your issues, it's too late. If you're trying to put it together in March or April, you've lost the battle already. If you don't start in January with all the information that you need on your issue. And things change, but you really need to know what you're talking about right off the bat because things move really quickly. Know your schedule, know the constraints that you're under. If you're given 15 to 20 minutes for a meeting, that is all you're going to get genuinely. I know in our office, we often had to schedule meetings back to back to back to back, which meant that was it. We had to come and stop the meeting and say your next meeting is here. And so don't think that you're going to get 30 minutes. If you were told you're going to get 15, you're going to get 15 minutes. And one other thing that I always think that people don't understand is you don't know where your meeting's going to happen. Oftentimes you think you're going to go to your member's office to meet with them, and it turns out they're in a committee meeting and they can't leave, and so finally they'll ask you to just come over and meet with them in the hallway. Please don't take that the wrong way. It's not that they don't want to meet with you and they don't think that you're important. It's just how crammed the time is. And so you need to be prepared to, maybe you don't get to sit down at a table and lay everything out and show everybody your graphs. You might just have to talk in a hallway really quickly and hand them a piece of paper. Paper does help up to a point, but one piece of paper is hugely helpful oftentimes. 10 pieces of paper, not so much. It's very important. One of the things I've always said that helps people in my position as a staff member at the Capitol get ahead is if you're able to summarize everything into a one-page memo. That's the same rule of thumb for folks who want to talk about an issue. If you can't summarize it into a one-page memo, it's really hard to get your points across sometimes. Mark Vesey was a great example. He's a wonderful legislator. Mark Vesey is not your typical Texas legislature. I will just let you know. You're often going to be talking, if you're coming to talk about environmental issues at the Texas Capitol, it is not usually going to be somebody with a 100% voting record with the Sierra Club. It will generally be somebody with a less than 50% voting record, which means you have to learn to talk about your issues in different terms. And it's very important to be able to relate your issues. Oftentimes, unfortunately, and I don't think this is Texas specific, a lot of people think it is, but it's not. In these days, in Washington, D.C., you have to do the same thing. If you can't relate your issues to an economic issue, you're almost starting at ground zero. So public health is an economic issue. Keeping children healthy, keeping children in school is an economic issue. Keeping land available to keep our water pure and to serve as, to serve as protection for our air that we need to breathe and our water that we need to drink. Those are all economic issues. It's much easier to keep these things from getting polluted than to clean them up afterwards, which is what we always have to do. There's always a way to make it an economic issue. You should always look for that argument at the Texas Capitol, and I would argue at almost any state or local or national government. I think you just have to remember that as a Texan, what every Texas legislator, male, female, conservative, liberal, we all love Texas. They really do. And you need to walk into every office that you go into keeping that in mind, that everybody loves Texas and they're trying to do what they think is right for the Texas that they love. And so it's all about relationships eventually in these policy discussions. That's why the hired guns get paid the big bucks, because they have built up these relationships over several years. Please don't assume that you're going to walk in and have that relationship. If you're just starting to lobby, quote, lobby, or to have a conversation with your elected officials, you're probably not going to walk in and be part of the inner circle. That's okay. You should walk in, though, and understand that they want to have a relationship with you. They're looking to have a relationship with their constituents, especially their voters. And what they really appreciate is folks who not only come to see them during those 5 months that they're having to make the hard votes, but during the interim at their district offices, calling them to let them know what's going on with issues that you care about, keeping them up to date year in, throughout the year, throughout the interim. And so you're starting a relationship maybe the first time you come to visit them. And just keep that in mind, that you don't want to say anything that's going to ruin that right off the bat. You don't want to start out confrontational, and you want to make sure that you're following up and providing them with as much information about the issues you care about when you can. I'm not sure what else we would like to talk about at this point, if y'all have any specific.
Yeah, so we're actually going to take questions now, and so if you wouldn't mind, on your top right corner you should have an icon, looks like a hand basically. Just press that and that'll raise your hand basically, and that way we can answer your question. So I see Martha Williams, raise your hand. I'm going to unmute you now so you can talk.
Hi Martha, can you hear us?
Yes, I had hit the wrong button.
Oh,
okay, no problem.
Hello, Martha.
Thanks for joining us.
All right, Rebecca Hinojosa. Sorry.
Hi Rebecca, can you hear us?
Hi.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question. I'm from Denton, Texas, and it's really cool to hear about that speaker also came from Denton, Texas. But I guess my question is, I'm part of a group called Denton Off Fossil Fuels. It's a community organization, and we're trying to organize a small lobby day training to get as many people from Denton as possible to go down and lobby against House Bill 1492 and House Bill 2377, which are pro-fracking bills. And so I was wondering if you had any packets of information about how to organize a lobby training. That'd be great if y'all could study those.
Yeah, we do. And I'm sorry, I want to just make sure I understand you. You're saying a lobby day, how to organize a whole lobby day with your...
A lobby training.
Lobby training. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
We do. We can send you, the materials that we just went through, we can email those to you so you can share them with whoever else you want to share them with.
And also we recorded this presentation, so we can send that out, and we obviously have the presentation that we can send it out as well.
Okay, great.
Go Mean Green.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And also make sure we go to to our in-district visits. Up there we have Myra Cronover. Crownover. I'm sorry. And so I mean that could be interesting. Good luck with that.
Yeah, Rebecca, for any folks who cannot come to Austin, it's always helpful to go to the district office there in your community and meet directly with her staff there. You might not meet with the member herself during session, but that's okay. The staff is just as important as the member, especially when things are moving quickly. So please don't ever feel like you're getting shunted aside because you're not allowed to meet, because there's no time to meet with a member. It's always just as helpful almost to meet with the staff people, okay?
Okay, great. Thanks for your advice.
Thanks for joining us.
All right, Susan Pentel. Susan?
Chairman?
Yeah.
Yes, hello.
When I did this in previous years, there were a lot of people from Austin, and so we were not assigned to our own representatives. We were assigned to other people. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because we can't go in there and say, you're my representative. You have less influence when they're not your representatives.
That is somewhat true. And I guess I assume you're in Austin, and thank you for still participating. That's, the beauty of living in Austin is that we are close by and we're allowed to follow things, and we're able to follow things a lot more than some of our, other members who live a lot farther away and it's difficult to travel. That said, I will tell you as a staff member, the members of the committees who sit, the members who sit on the committees to which the bills you care about have been sent are just as important to talk to as your own representatives, and most members, not all of them, but most of them understand that they have more of an obligation to talk to folks who are not in their districts about the bills that have been sent to the committees they sit on. So, for example, if you care about an air quality bill or some kind of TC, Texas Commission on Environmental Quality regulatory bill that has been sent to environmental regulation, it is just as valid for anybody from around the state to go to a member of that committee and say, I really have concerns about this particular bill that has been sent to your committee. You're one of only 8 or 10 people who gets to make the initial decisions about this bill, and so therefore I really need to talk to you directly about the amendments that are going to happen. And most members on those committees respect the fact that while you're not their constituent, they're the gatekeepers on that bill, and they take input from a lot of folks. So genuinely, I think, I know as the Sierra Club and as part of the ACT Lobby Day, we try to hook the abundant Austin lobbyists, citizen lobbyists who are able to attend up with maybe some of those key committee members who maybe there's nobody who could come from El Paso. So we try to hook some of you great folks who have some time here in Austin to go talk directly with some of those key legislators about some specifics, very specifics. That's when you start getting into some real details about bills. Here's some amendments that we really need. Here's some language that we need changed. And that's just as valid. Does that make sense?
Susan?
Hi, Susan. Okay.
All right. Okay, do we have any more questions? Yes, let me check.
So I don't know how many of you are planning to join us on March 20th. But again, I would like to reiterate that if you cannot come to Austin for the March 20th Lobby Day, it is just as important that you pick up the phone and call your specific legislators. As a staff member, I can tell you that we received very few direct calls from constituents. Very few in the grand scheme of things. And if you call your legislative office and you don't get to talk to the staff person who handles the bill you're interested in the first time, you should keep calling back, because eventually they're going to get the message that there is a constituent, a voter, calling and who wants some specific information about a bill, and those are calls you pretty much have to take as a staff member. Those are generally not calls that you get to say, oh, we'll just let an intern take. So don't be shy about following up. Again, if you're calling your legislative office, again, it's going to be more difficult if you're not actually in their district, but I would highly recommend that you call. It's also just as important to email and send letters. Again, preferably not form letters, letters that you've either typed or written yourself. It's always much more powerful.
Yeah, I mean, again, whether or not you voted for these people, they are still representing you. So please feel free. It is your right to create a relationship with your representative. Again, we have Lobby Day with ACT going on March 20th and the night of March 19th. You can look at acttexas.org for more information on that. And then also right now the Sierra Club is having the Obama's 100 Day of Climate Legacy. So please check that out for more information. All right. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we've given you some great insight. I'm Mike. Thank you very much.
I'm Yuval. Y'all have a good night.